Skarner letting Amazing control the early game, gank every single lane. But we have to mention, the analyst has already said it, Soaz is in the top lane. This is the correct move of your Fnatic. He is currently the better choice for your team.
And they're going to take Skarner off the board. Schalke, being on blue side, will have that first pick. They did select blue side, and they're going to continue with some of their previous bans. Tristana, Olaf were what were taken off before. Urgot was what they banned third and last, and they're just going to keep with this. Could they potentially look at the first pick Akali themselves, perhaps challenge Fnatic? Oh, never mind.
No,
No,
sir. We do not want to run it back, but the Braum will get locked in again from Schalke, so despite swapping sides, their priorities remain the same.
Last game, then Hylissang played Shen. I just want to mention that he's the best Pyke in the world, and it is still an option for him to play. Ezreal Pyke in the bot lane, Rekkles sits back and does very little, and then Hylissang tries to roam to the mid lane. It's been one of the most successful strategies for Fnatic. Once again, they're valuing the Shen pick on their side.
And they're going to lock in the Kaisa, it looks like, once again. And
here we get Varus.
Yeah, it looks like the Schalke can just draft the same thing, get themselves a strong 2v2, and they think that by removing the Skarner, we're actually fine. They think that, hey, that was a large part of why you're even able to get this pressure down bot side. With that early game jungler removed, what else does Amazing have?
And a big show of confidence from Fnatic to take a bot lane that they did struggle with, saying our bot lane was the problem. It was the Skarner, and with Varus now locked in, it looks like Upset and Vander are once again set up to be comfortable on the bottom side of the map. You can see Maurice hand on his head. What is the jungle option now for Schalke?
Yeah, Trundle is still available for him. We saw his Poppy as well being played early on playoffs. Sejuani is not banned, but it's something he's actually not valued lately.
And I think if Fnatic lock in Trundle now, Schalke have something prepared. I feel like that they're kind of expecting Broxah to pick it to take it away from Amazing, because again, the two picks that Amazing showed really good prowess on in terms of early game impact was the Skarner and the Trundle, and we know it is a big comfort pick for Broxah.
Sion was going to be the one I was just about to mention here, because again, with the Braum locked in, a lot of teams don't want to play Ornn against it. He can block that big ulti. So Sion instead, who can literally just run through it and smack into the Braum instead, and that's how you can start a fight. Also gives you a very strong laning phase for Soaz, so we know it's Shen support, we know it's going to be Sion top lane.
Fnatic locking it in now because it was banned out previously. Now taking away some of the jungle options from Amazing. Don't want to give him the Gragas with that Predator, the potential to impact the map early. Maybe trying to force him onto that Sejuani or Trundle.
Yeah, that's going to be, you know, a big question. Also, NukeDuck in the mid lane. We'll most likely have to blind pick here. Caps can save his pick towards the end. He can get the counter pick on the side of Fnatic. And because you know you have pushed bot lane with Varus Braum, will we get a champ from NukeDuck that can roam, that can go bot lane and assist in destroying this Kaisa that's going to get pushed on the turret? It is just an issue that you have to blind pick it against a man who plays everything.
A part of me wonders if they will look for something like the Rise. Maybe they ban the Cassio out now, maybe force Caps onto something like a Rise, and I don't know if this is something that Caps is really known for, something that he often plays a lot of. I'm sure it's in his champion pool. It's something that, you know, Caps, you would expect him to be able to play, but we know that it is something that NukeDuck has proficiency on. He is a very talented side lane, and it's something that can move from mid towards the bot side of the map.
Well, gonna get banned away here. Another mid lane pick taken off the board. Looks like it might be as predicted with the Trundle lock in here.
And I feel like this is where we're going to see the Camille from Amazing. He played it very early on during the regular season, the first time that these two teams actually met, and it is something he's been practicing a lot in his solo queue games. I feel like it would do great into the Trundle and would provide that early gank pressure that Schalke are looking for.
Are they just going to go with something more comfortable, more safe, something tried and true for the team, or are they just baiting us here with the Sejuani? Will they swap it at the last second? It remains to be seen. Is going to get locked in there.
So they take it against the Trundle and say, we don't actually care about this. It's still going to be valuable. Now, Sejuani is super good with melee champions, so things like a Yasuo suddenly rise up in value when you take Sejuani. Now, Caps on his side. The last time he saw this Yasuo pick, we saw a Wukong come in. But he does not have Sejuani on his side. And Sejuani is huge with these melees in the mid lane.
What is it going to be? The Pyke cover. Come on, Fnatic. What is Caps got? What is the counter pick into this matchup? Is it the Wukong one more time into the mid lane? No, the Cassio, the confidence coming in from Caps. Using the Miasma, going to look to deny the mobility of this Yasuo.
So this time a little bit more scaling on both sides. Schalke, they do have a strong 2 versus 2 in the bot, but Sejuani not known for her early game jungle impact. She will have strong engage later on into the game, and Schalke have good setup for the Yasuo, but he is more of a 2-item spike champion. And you can say very similarly for the side of Fnatic, the Cassio and the Kaisa looking for those 2 items.
Yeah, this Cassio is going to be huge though. It's going to provide the magic damage they need. Again, we know the bot lane will be an issue for Fnatic. Luckily on top side, they actually have a very strong 3v3. Sion is great in the early game. Trundle can outduel the Sejuani, and Caps will never lack damage on this Cassiopeia. So Fnatic have a lot more tools towards the top side of the map, and they were kind of missing that last game with the Gangplank that didn't really do anything the first 20 minutes.
We did see a couple ultis come out to try and mitigate some of the pressure, but outside of that, you're right, Deficio. And now we see Soaz in play. We get to see the differences that he brings to the Fnatic lineup, and we'll see if Fnatic can bounce back after falling into, some would say, an unexpected deficit in Game 1.
Absolutely. The activity from Amazing, not considered one of the stronger players on this team for a long time, but turned that all around in the semifinals and is continuing to do so here in the finals in Madrid. Can he do it again on the Sejuani? This was the comfort pick, but it was not the aggressive pick. We're going to have to find out. No more inequality in draft here. Both teams coming in with a strong early strategy, much less risk-taking on the side of Fnatic.
Ready on my side.
And now for more on the draft, let's head over to QuickShot and Schalke's coach.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm joined by Giotto, coach for Schalke. 1-0 up in the draft, blind pick Yasuo into Caps' Cassiopeia. What needs to go right for your team to pull this comp off?
I mean, I think we just have to execute a similar plan like we did on the last game. Yasuo Cassio mid lane is really, really explosive. So obviously getting an early advantage both for us or for them will be really, really important for that matchup. But I'm really confident on our 2v2 ability, and I think these guys can pull it off once again.
Yeah, definitely seems to be the case. Best of luck. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you very much, QuickShot. Here we are, Game 2, an explosive mid lane to set the expectation. 7-0 on Sejuani is the score for Amazing. Can this comfort pick combined with the Yasuo in the mid lane be enough for Schalke to take it to match point?
Well, Caps is going to make it hard because he's running Cleanse, as we so often see against Sejuani. It's a little bit hard to gank him. Obviously, NukeDuck in the early game in terms of raw damage output ideally wants to get a Phantom Dancer, but he might not even actually get to that point before we get the first couple of fights, because I think the combination of Sejuani Yasuo is so good.
Now, as we look across this, it's important to note on the substitution change. Both teams starting pretty defensively gives us a chance to talk about Soaz and Bwipo and the differences that these teams, or that these players bring to the team, the difference in styles that we see when they play.
And the real stat you need to look at is that damage percentage difference. Bwipo is a huge contributor in terms of the damage output, and Soaz, he's much more of that utility supportive kind of top laner.
But of course, the death percentage that you see at the bottom.
My apologies.
He's not, sadly, that's not damage, Vedius.
I was like,
sadly,
but I'm pretty sure that's normally what we see.
But more kills, for sure, and a more active Fnatic. But when Soaz plays, it feels like this team has calmed down, that they can play a more patient game.
Exactly that. Thank you, Drakos. Yes, in terms of early game action, we often see a lot more from the side of Bwipo. He is an engager, he likes to be aggressive, whereas Soaz is a little bit more reserved. He tends to be the vocal, the senior experienced member of the team that kind of keeps people restrained and slows them down. We saw a large part of that in their semifinals.
He is the longest standing member in the EU LCS for a reason. The man has tried everything from playing in the Season 1 World Championship to now playing here in the Season 8 Summer Split Final in Madrid. And early on, sure, Cho'Gath can push. Should not matter in terms of the 1v1. It's more about the two junglers and where they decide to focus. Amazing was everywhere in the first game. Now he can play around both top and mid, which is going to be the key thing, because that's where Fnatic are strong in this early game. And we just heard from Schalke's coach, the 1v1 matchup in mid, it's very explosive. If you get an advantage, you can take over the game.
And we bring up this lower third for Amazing because he did have a very impressive game one. His kills plus assists at 15 was incredibly high considering how he has been during the regular season, but that jungle proximity, it may look relatively low. You compare that to someone like Broxah, who only had a 25% jungle proximity in game one. His presence was little to none. And one of the big ways in which Fnatic have found success in the past is by playing through Caps. Caps, enabling their start mid laner. And coming into this game, there is a potential opportunity to do that as Fnatic are looking to bounce back in this series.
Now we see Hylissang looks like he will get stunned up, but just a trade on the bottom side. The arrow going to come through as well. Mid lane, explosive as predicted. Caps was very comfortable for those first 2 levels, but now that Yasuo has hit that level 4 mark, he's starting to trade back, he's starting to fire back, and it's just a matter of time, it feels like, before those junglers show up.
Yeah, right now NukeDuck gets the first back on his side. He will return while Caps is trying to push out the wave. Meanwhile, Amazing and Broxah have just been focused on farming. Broxah did secure the risk on bottom side to try and protect Rekkles and Hylissang. But currently, nothing happening in the game.
And NukeDuck and Upset at slight deficits in terms of the early game. You kind of expect that for Yasuo melee into the range champion, but also in the bot lane, it was kind of a different story in terms of the early laning phases. And one of the big reasons for that was that we can see Hylissang being much more willing to play aggressive, play forward, utilize the strengths of Shen to minimize the dueling prowess that Braum can bring with his passive.
Sadly for Hylissang, he doesn't have an AD carry that can help him right here in the early game, so he just took a bunch of free damage on his side, and he's suddenly a target if he tries to do it again. With the Ignite here, you can actually take him down surprisingly fast on the side of Schalke, but should not be an issue as long as Hylissang stays back.
And of course, Schalke taking the push back as the wave bounces, as they will push into the tower. But gentlemen, we talk about a slower game, a steadier game. Yes, there is an explosive mid lane. Yes, we're waiting to see where those jungles impact. But if we go late, who has the advantage here between these 2 compositions?
I think looking at the side of Fnatic, Kaisa, Cassiopeia is 2 of the strongest in terms of the consistent damage output you have. Oh, NukeDuck is actually playing very aggressive.
That's hold that thought. Here comes Amazing. A little bit of interruption there. Knock up, but not going to be anything exchanged in the end. Good positioning from Amazing to help out his mid laner there. That could have been first blood for Fnatic.
Back to the point here, despite the consistent DPS on the side of Fnatic, I think there's so many engaged tools on the side of Schalke and so many ways to set up NukeDuck to reach the backline of Fnatic that it honestly, so much of it comes down to the execution of the fight. Can NukeDuck find Rekkles or Caps in a late game team fight? Schalke can win it.
I also think that in terms of the late game, one of Schalke's biggest strengths is that no one can match Yasuo in a side lane. If you're sending Cassio off, that is very risky thing to do, especially given how well he scales once he starts building all those big crit items. So Schalke do have that potential win condition as we see it engage top.
You flash to the side. Vizicsacsi not going to let that happen. No lane kills today. Both these guys playing masterfully around each other's champions. No greater advantage quite yet. A small CS lead for Vizicsacsi. Now Broxah heading up top is going to try to duel out with Amazing. Going to get a brief bit of damage here, but that's about it for the burst to Sejuani. Both sides just going to back off.
Yeah, Amazing gets a free combo there. Obviously seeing Broxah walk up towards the lane. Chachi had no mana whatsoever to continue trading. And I like to start from Soaz here, forcing an early flash. And you know what happens when the enemy Cho'Gath has no flash?
I want to say Broxah often goes top.
Yes, he likes to go top then. He looks for that easy kill. So let's keep an eye on Broxah the next couple of minutes. Top lane is an opening, but he still needs to be aware of what's happening mid because you cannot allow NukeDuck and Amazing to kill Caps.
I also want to keep a close eye on the bot lane matchup too. We talked so much about Rekkles versus Upset, 2 of our best performing AD carries in Europe. And with the return of Rekkles, many question, would he still be challenging the top spot? Would he still be able to perform? And you look at his semifinals, and some even said he was carried by Caps in that semifinal. He didn't have the star performance that he did last split. Coming into this final, having spoken to him, he wanted to prove that he is still one of, if not the best AD carries in Europe. And Upset has been making a name to challenge that title.
Absolutely has some fantastic numbers put up by Upset in that game 1 alone. But now, gentlemen, we have to check in because level 6s are coming through. Where's Amazing going to throw that first ulti? It looks like it's going to be on the bottom side of the map. Hylissang, nice dash out to safety. Wide shot there from Amazing. A little too confident there to throw it out.
Yeah, I prefer that setup if you have, or I prefer to see Vander actually be in the lane to jump forward and connect the first bit of CC, and then you can follow up with Amazing's ulti. In almost every case, Hylissang should be fast enough to dash out of it. So it's now a cooldown on the side of Schalke. Let's see if anything can happen on the side of Fnatic. It is tough for them with this composition to fully force too many things early, but they have Shen ulti very soon.
Rekkles, of course, notorious Justana player, no stranger to waiting for a few items under his belt before he goes any further into the game. But Kaisa, not necessarily a pick we associate with him. 3rd game of the Kaisa in EU LCS. And of course, only 2 losses under his belt so far. So you talked about him having an opportunity to prove himself, Vedius. This is definitely one of those opportunities.
And one of those games was from MSI. Let's not forget back to when he played it into double lift. He went up against the notorious Kog'Maw and didn't have the best of performances, and then we didn't really see it from him outside of that. He's now brought it back in this final, and late game hyper carries are kind of Rekkles' thing. He scored 2 pentakills in the last final that he was in up against G2, and Fnatic would love him to have that kind of performance once again. But so far in this early game, he's struggling, as you would expect from the Kaisa, but he is still maintaining in terms of farm, which is kind of the best case scenario that you would want for your AD carry.
A little bit of a loss in terms of pressure, but as you said, matching in farm, it's a good position to be in. Mid lane, suffering for Schalke, the range disadvantage for NukeDuck. Kind of has to all go all in here if he wants to win out, and not exactly set up to do so as Fnatic set their sights on this Drake.
Yeah, also with that first ulti from Amazing, he kind of wasted in the bottom lane. No initial setup for him to land the ulti, and it meant that he played passive. He's waiting for the cooldown on it again. Caps' cleanse is available. Caps right now, if he's actually able to sit there and deal damage, will be a massive threat, even without AP being built on his side. Looking down to bottom lane, Broxah is sitting there. Vander and Upset. Don't actually see him yet.
See an opportunity to go for an engage, but they realize now that they've been baited in. The flash out from Upset. Hylissang tries to extend the taunt range with the flash himself, but Upset quick on the trigger finger there, not going to let that slide.
That was a really good bait there from Hylissang, kind of overstepping to draw Upset and Vander into a bit of a skirmish, and then Broxah was able to just come in from the river and set up a gank to force the flash out from Upset. So Fnatic now have this summoner spell back. Well, I say that. Hylissang ended up burning 2 of his summoner spells to even make that play happen. Now we see Soaz roaming down towards bot, though, to try and make more happen.
No TP from Vizicsacsi. He cannot join a fight. Amazing is down bot lane already. Trying to set up either a lane gank or he's trying to counter gank this potential play from the Sion.
He sees Broxah. They're not sure where Sion is yet. Creeps are deleted before they get a chance to spot out Soaz. No.
Oh, nice dodge.
There's the pillar. Vander going to do what he can to stop this from happening. Upset does take a lot of initial damage. Vander now locked up, but he blasts out.
CC!
He falls. He's either under tower. Taken down the turn and burned from Schalke to punish.
Beautiful counter from Schalke. Vander, so much patience from using the ultimate. He didn't just throw it out immediately. He waited for the ulti to come out from Amazing, but now Caps, he is on his way bot.
Broxah pushing in, the pillars there. Upset has no mana. Amazing trying to buy as much time as possible. The Shen is now returning. The stun has come out. They want to turn and bring this back. Caps running in, looking for a few kills to get it up. Uses the ultimate, stuns him up. Looking to clean up house here. 1 kill. Not going to get another one as Rekkles takes it back. Schalke now running. NukeDuck needs to get out. He needs to make it to safety. Flash to keep him safe. And Fnatic fire back.
Yeah, what a turnaround here from Fnatic after losing the first kill. They know with the Shen ulti and Caps roaming down, they can go for more. They find multiple kills on their side. They will get a bot lane turret, and yeah, Chachi's getting topside, but they don't care about the Cho'Gath. It's all about getting kills on your carries.
Fnatic tried to force play in the bot lane, and they're able to pull it off. It did take a couple of extra resources, but they were able to make it happen. First Tower Blood goes down in Fnatic's favor. They now hold the gold lead.
And they also got the flash from NukeDuck because he tried to walk in and help, realize he couldn't and had to flash out. What a quick turn here. After Schalke completely read the first situation. They know Sion is coming. They have so much CC on the turret. But they couldn't do anything the second time.
Let's take a look at it one more time, gentlemen. This replay brought to you by Acer Predator.
So, they're utilizing the fact that Vizicsacsi doesn't have teleport, Soaz can use his ulti to force a play here, and they have a decent amount of early game damage. So, Vander's in a great position to defend Upset. He takes a lot of damage. And note here, ulti comes in from Amazing to lock 2 members up, and then the Vander ultimate. The combined CC locks Fnatic underneath the tower to allow them to get the first kill. Then they overstay. Upset has no mana and no flash. Caps gets priority on roaming down towards the bot side, and then the moment Hylissang respawns, the Shen ultimate comes in to turn this into a 3 versus 5.
And of course, as the rest of this fight plays out, you can just see the kills going in for both of the carries, and now eyes on the prize here. Another beautiful sidestep from Hylissang to deny it for now. Buys a bit of time with the Spirit's Refuge. Rekkles, don't think he's going to go on this one. Picked off by the side of Schalke.
This is a classic Hylissang move. He does not care where the enemy is. He does not think about it. And every so often, he just walks through an entirely lit up area and ends up getting punished by the opposition. Schalke pick up a free kill.
Gentlemen, NukeDuck looks like he may have his eyes on the prize. Knockup isn't going to connect. Silence does. Immediately, they're going to get a little bit more, but the tornado goes in. Now they want to fire back on the Caps, but NukeDuck's in trouble because Rekkles is cleaning up. He wants to fire through the rest of this team. The tankier member is going to start to get cut down. The stun coming in. Upset is here, but is it going to be enough? It might be too little too late. Vizicsacsi is still alive. Upset ready with the turn. They're firing in. Soaz is first on the menu. Zombie Sion going to come through. Another fight for Schalke.
Such a good final so far. So many fights. We see now the focus around mid lane. We asked for this in the pick and ban phase. NukeDuck gets the knock up and dodges the ulti from Caps. But when the fight starts, everyone is already running to mid lane, so we get a massive team fight.
Absolutely fantastic stuff from both teams. It all starts off with NukeDuck and Chachi getting the setup on the Cat. NukeDuck turns around to avoid getting stunned. He then uses his ultimate at the last second. But then Rekkles joins the fight as Chachi kills Cassio. This is when things start to get crazy.
Yeah, because now you have all the bruisers in here, and they just can't die. It's only the squishy members, like an AD carry, that can actually drop. But Rekkles is safe, and same thing for Upset. So we have this really long trade. But in the end, Soaz will go down as well. We are dead even in gold. 14 minutes in. The mid laners have not managed to snowball out of control, but we do have 2 kills on this Kaisa. Much better compared to last game.
Things looking much better for Fnatic overall. Schalke, though, going to try to turn that around by grabbing themselves a Rift Herald. Fight before is so close. We know that all the fights, if both teams are there, are going to look a lot like that. Going to come down a lot to the setup going through. Schalke will secure this one uncontested.
Schalke are challenging Fnatic in this final. Expectations were that Fnatic would be the clean favorites. Hey, maybe they drop a game. Maybe they would struggle a little bit, but they would still be the clear favorites. What we're seeing so far in this series is that Schalke is answering everything that Fnatic throws at them. Schalke is willing to skirmish, willing to fight. And with the goal dead even 50 minutes into the game, we still have no idea which way this game will go.
And that's actually one of the best things about this Schalke story is how this lineup, during Spring Split when they didn't make playoffs, a lot of people said a lot of these names are washed up. NukeDuck, no, he's overrated, always getting hyped for nothing. Chachi's no longer that great top laner we saw in Unicorn's love. Let's follow that story after in case the fighting they do not. But here in the summer split, after Amazing joined and the coaching staff had more time with them, a lot of these players are playing much better individually.
Beautiful pillar for Broxah starts to fight off. They can't get the flash out because he's locked up into miasma. Now they're going to try to fire back. NukeDuck in the middle of everybody. Cap now trying to get out with the Shen ultimate, but it's going to be enough damage. The knockup, the chain CC. Schalke take the 2.
Amazing sits in the Raptor camp. He waits for the right moment and then he dashes over the wall, lands a little knockback onto Caps, and then NukeDuck can ult.
You cannot call these Schalke players washed up anymore, Deficio. You said it just right. They look like it last split. They're bouncing back this split, and they are challenging. That little skirmish was all a big bait by Vizicsacsi. He looked like he was out of position. He looked like he was going to get collapsed upon, but the rest of Schalke, they were lying in wait, ready for the turnaround, and they found a big fight against Fnatic.
The Rift Herald, though, is denied. No greater advantage for Schalke. Still only a 1k gold advantage in their name as we look back at this beautiful pillar to start it off.
So Vizicsacsi could just go the long way around, but then he gets collapsed upon. He's the tank, he soaks up a lot of damage, and then keep your eyes on Amazing. He gets this small knockup onto the Cassio, immediate follow-up by NukeDuck. No flash available. The Shen ult tries to come through, but it's not enough. NukeDuck, perfect execution, enables the kill onto for Schalke.
Absolutely stunning fight from this team as a whole, and I think it's important we remember what Schalke are up against, why people are calling this team underdogs, because when you look at the history of Fnatic and the achievements that this team has, that this organization has, you can understand why people might just have a little bit more faith in them than anybody else.
Yeah, it's the biggest and most successful organization in all of Europe here. I mean, it says it all down the bottom. 6-time EU LCS champions, been to Worlds 5 times, won Worlds in Season 1. Like, this organization, they've done everything in regards to European League of Legends. And if you talk to these players, they're constantly talking about winning the EU LCS again, going to Worlds, and then see if they can win the entire thing. But step 1 is beating Schalke.
And right now, Schalke are not making it easy for them. Back into the game, we see that NukeDuck has moved into that split push position and is working towards the Infinity Edge. He secures another tower over in favor of Schalke as Caps looks to do the same, but look at how Schalke can just group up mid and apply this pressure. Chachi does have teleport available, and Soaz, he's forced to group with this team because he doesn't.
Man advantage for Fnatic in the mid lane, but not able to use it to too much effect. Vizicsacsi roaming top lane, could have used TP to deny that tower take, but doesn't want to give it up. Knows that the fight to come could be more important. Instead, Schalke will settle for getting a little more pressure on the bot lane and this Ocean Drake.
Yeah, this little trade is in favor of Schalke because the Drake is alive on bot side, and there's of course no Rift Herald top lane. Caps is going all in on Chachi.
Gonna have to run, has a lot of CC here, just gonna eat back. Silence comes out, wants to buy a bit of time. Knockup does connect as well, that's a low mana bar. Hylissang not gonna be able to push in for anything else.
Cho'Gath, ladies and gentlemen, he literally just walks away from that. Surprised that he goes for the Abyssal Mask rather than the Adaptive Helmet, because that's often a really good item into both Kaisa and the Cassio. Interesting itemization choice there, but still provides you with enough MR to survive the onslaught of Caps, who honestly would have ran out of mana before he got within kill range.
Mana. He spent his entire mana pool, and amazing. Maybe looking to spend his all here to lock up Rekkles. Already using a little bit of mobility there. Has Flash, is just going to have to back off here in the mid lane, and Schalke continuing to grow their gold lead. 3 towers to 2. Drakes are tied up. 1K still in their favor.
Fnatic been waiting for Rekkles to get his Rage Plate. He's almost there. 1,300 gold in his bags. Right now, Caps is sitting on 2.5 items on his side, so the damage, the moment they complete that next item on Rekkles, is definitely there for Fnatic to win fights. But the same thing can be said for NukeDuck, who's constantly in the side lane. IH is soon completed, and we talked about this earlier. These fights so much relies on execution from Schalke's side.
Yes.
Can they set up the perfect ulti from NukeDuck?
Because the thing is, with NukeDuck, if he just goes off of the first knockup that lands, the Fnatic carry is just going to flash away. And then it's really difficult for a Yasuo to stick onto these targets once they've created a gap, unless he has those minion waves to kind of utilize and maximize his mobility. So he has to be really patient and pick the right moments if they even choose to team fight. The better option is just split push.
And we have to remember as well, the value of the Wind Wall and the value of the Braum Unbreakable. If Kaisa is allowed into this backline and those abilities are not available, Rekkles will kill everyone. No doubt about that.
Yeah, and that's why, again, with the execution part, you're going to get one fight where everything gets blocked by that Wind Wall. All the Kaisa Qs gets blocked. But then the following fight, Rekkles, by getting in melee range, will actually dodge around that Wind Wall very effectively, and then he can suddenly kill someone in the backline. And if NukeDuck can't find his targets, it becomes upsets damage against 2 carries on the side of Fnatic, and that's unfair. But we got to remember also with Chachi, Feast is available, so you can try and play what we call the front to back, where you kill the tank first, because you have that true damage from Chachi.
It's going to get a little bit easier as they move forward. Items now being completed. 2-item point now for the Kaisa. 2-item point for the Cassio, along with the needlessly large rod. And of course, the ever-crucial Infinity Edge plus Phantom Dancer for NukeDuck.
Ooh, Caps did get spotted out by Amazing, but I feel like Schalke, they need to base. Let Upset spend his gold before they fight. They might not get a chance.
Hylissang now moving in. Rekkles not going to connect there. Soaz trying to find the follow-up ulti. They're holding on to the summoner spells.
That's huge.
Waiting for a little bit more. They're not going to burn anything in. They're playing patiently. The tank is taken out first. Soaz going to do a lot of damage on the backside of the fight, but Caps has already burned the miasma. Schalke going to be happy with 1 pick.
Chachi still has his ultimate, and Schalke have full control over the Baron. They need to push out mid, set up the vision, and then pressure this to force Fnatic into another bad fight.
Second fight in a row where Rekkles cannot find a way into the fight itself. Last one, he was topside. This one here, he was simply in the mid lane, never finding an opening.
Vizicsacsi's ult, Amazing's ult, NukeDuck's ult, all available. Caps has his as well. Rekkles has his as well. Both teams not fighting at full strength, but could look to find an opening here.
Look at the side lanes. NukeDuck is pushing up top. There is pressure down bot as well. Schalke, they don't feel threatened by the Baron at all, and they're going in!
It is going to connect on the Rekkles. They find the immediate follow-up. Caps trying to turn it back, though. Fires out with the ultimate. Amazing now could get taken down the miasma, but they're firing back. Soaz in the middle of everybody. The knock-up, the shutdown. Not today, Amazing. Fnatic back off. NukeDuck now turning his attention to try to come to the mid lane. He pulls back.
That looks like the perfect engage, but they couldn't kill the AD carry. There was not enough damage. NukeDuck was top lane. Fnatic, they stay around mid.
And Caps played perfectly. That ultimate landed onto 3 members, and crucially, it landed onto Upset. He could output no damage in that fight, which meant that Fnatic, with the TP coming in from Soaz, could turn the fight in their favor. They find the kill onto Amazing, but because of the pressure on the side lanes, they cannot force anything else.
A Schalke winning game.
Wait, this is the Baron.
Hold on to it, Baron. Broxah is here. Hylissang
Amazing is dead, by the way.
No TP on Soaz.
Cho'Gath is alive and well. The Feast crucial in this exchange, but they're backing off.
Right. All Schalke tried to do was check if Fnatic had completely reset and recalled. If that had happened, with the Feast, you can secure it, you're not afraid of a steal. Didn't happen. But man, we're getting such a close game 2 after Schalke dominate in game 1. It's just setting up for such an epic BU5 between the teams. We're showing NukeDuck top lane here because he's missing from this fight. So despite hitting Rekkles and Caps sidestepping, there's just not enough damage to actually kill them. Upset got stunned from the Cassiopeia ulti.
It was so beautiful from Caps. That 3-man ulti saved them in that fight, combined with the Hylissang Spirit's Refuge, mitigated so much of the damage from the side of Schalke. Again, it looked good from the offset, but really good outplay from Fnatic.
Next time we might see Caps just grab the ulti and then use his cleanse. But he was like, nope, I'm not gonna hit by that. And then Rex is like, oh, come on, I can't get out of it.
Awkward moment where both the people who might want to protect you do step out of the way. Rekkles does get hit, still has a decent amount of damage contribution to the fight there overall, and NukeDuck not being present did hurt the team. However, Caps continuing to finish items, now at the 3-item point himself as the Spellbinder comes out.
He's almost at 400 AP right now, looking for some penetration soon. Void Staff could be a huge buy for him.
Really important to note that neither top laner has teleport right now, and with Vizicsacsi getting pushed in bot, he should have the priority to move up with Schalke first, and then they'll have the numbers advantage. They don't want to force anything right now because Cap still has all of his summoner spells, and with no heal on upset, Caps are a little hesitant to make it happen.
Another Varus ult goes wide, very slow missile speed there, and Cap's going to immediately try to pick up Amazing. This could be the pick that starts up Baron, but they get multiple member knockup. NukeDuck goes in, he sees an opportunity. Can they take down Hylissang? It's not going to happen. Upset uncontested for now. The Braum blocks what he can, but Cap is firing back. Sion is on the way, the Cho'Gath, the tanks battling it out. Neither team can get a greater advantage quite yet, but Fnatic has their sights on Baron. The Kaisa, the Cassio may be enough to cut it down.
They're starting it right now. No ulti for the Varus or the Yasuo.
That's so fast.
They're going, they're killing it.
No chance to take it down. Fnatic are going to get Baron. Schalke now put themselves in the pinch, but Fnatic are just going to walk away with their prize.
Oh, Fnatic, they had the control. They were waiting in the brush. They needed someone to face check. And the moment they saw Amazing, they collapse on him, they kill him. And we see right there for Schalke, when they don't get that proper setup they need, when they can't actually utilize a Yasuo ulti to then kill someone in the back, someone will die very quickly.
Really good play there from Fnatic. They secure themselves the Baron and take control of the game. The gold lead isn't even that big, but now with the pressure they can generate with this Baron, the fact that Rekkles is at 3 items, Caps is at 3.5, things are looking good for this Fnatic squad.
Maybe looking to find a pick on Soaz. 3 members strong in the side lane. Knockup doesn't land, means the follow-up isn't there either. Fnatic now free to push in the rest of the lanes. They see multiple members bot, but let's take a look at this replay.
I want you to look at NukeDuck the moment the fight starts. He actually has the chance to land a sick knockup on multiple members, but it just goes wide after here. The engage happens from Fnatic. It is loaded, goes to the right, so he doesn't actually get to CC anything and try and maybe save Amazing. So he drops very quickly, and they cannot kill Hylissang on the way out. Too much damage from the carries on the side of Fnatic.
And the big issue there was the fact that Schalke face checked. They thought that they were tanky enough, but they didn't have their primary tanks with them. And Amazing just got melted almost immediately. He has very little magic resist built up for himself, and now Schalke have to find a way to defend the siege from Fnatic.
Going to be a difficult task. Miasma goes down to make sure no mobility can come out. They took off to the side, maybe can look for a flank, but the vision is there for Fnatic. The knockup, the ulti does go in. Trundle now locked up. They want to see if they can find anything else to silence there, but they're holding their breath on the side of Schalke. Not going to go for anything else.
And this Shen pick is stopping Upset from just nuking down a target because he can't connect the auto attacks fast enough. They just get block, 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 block. And the moment then Shen W is gone, someone has already walked away on the side of Fnatic.
Cap stepping forward, Vizicsacsi could just get knocked up here, the wind wall there to block anything else. Caps manages to connect the ulti, but it's not enough to take anyone out. Fnatic are pressing forward, continuing to push, continuing to try to force Schalke off this tower.
And Schalke, they used all their engage tools earlier on when trying to find that pick onto Fnatic, and now with nothing left, Fnatic feel confident to force this tower.
Here comes Soaz! Not gonna find it, but the knockup will connect on the upset. Rekkles doesn't hesitate! He's got blood in his eyes, it's the right call. Vizicsacsi gonna do what he can to disengage though, now pulling back a rampage for Rekkles on the bottom side, and Fnatic could look to end it here.
So many good fights from Fnatic. Great shot calling, how to engage. Soaz has been a huge difference in this game. Great science performance on his side. And Rekkles, he's finding the back line, he's getting the kills.
NukeDuck taunted up a beautiful engagement from Hylissang, but Amazing is in the middle of everybody. Vizicsacsi trying to find the knockup, but there's too many members alive. NukeDuck goes down. Schalke go down, and Europe, your reigning champions, will not go quietly into that dark night.
Fnatic, they find themselves a win in Game 2. The series is tied at 1-1. Madrid goes wild. Gentlemen, we have a series on our hands.
Could not have asked for a better way to start a finals, gentlemen. 1-1 the score. Rekkles going off, Caps going off, Fnatic pulling it together in Game 2.
And so many fights towards the end where we didn't get that setup for the Yasuo when they had enough people to collapse on the back line. to try and kill Caps or Rekkles. Well, I actually think for almost every fight, Caps was sitting with both summoners available and didn't have to use them because he was just dancing around everything. They simply couldn't get onto him.
And just truly crazy how much a difference a single player can make in slowing down this entire team and having them play together. And you could see for Schalke so many times where they were so close to finding these opportunities, but all it took was one small pick for Fnatic to blow this game wide open.
And what we saw was that when Fnatic could control the early game a little bit more, when they were able to get to these late game team fights, they were able to truly shine. We saw a little bit more of the spring split Fnatic with their late game team fighting prowess, and they are a team that confidently says to anyone in Europe, if you want to go to late game, we will happily fight you there and we will look to outplay you.
Very, very true. We had the same bot lane setup as game 1. But in game 1, we had early ganks from Amazing in that lane that succeeded. Suddenly the Varus took over, getting 2v2 kills, took down the turret. This one, both AD carries farmed even. So the Kaisa got out of the laning phase, unlike game 1, and we saw a different performance here from Rekkles when he got to join the late game fights. But it's still so much about the Cassiopeia never getting hit by CC in these fights. They cannot get on to Caps, and he deals so much damage.
And we have to look back at the amount of ultis, Amazing and Upset, weren't able to connect in those key moments, how difficult it was for them to hit those slower moving skill shots. When they landed them, we saw it, they went off. They won those follow-up fights almost entirely. But when you miss one or two, and Fnatic aren't making the same mistakes, you can see who's going to come out on top in so many of these fights.
Yeah, and it just sets us up so beautifully for what is to come, because the eyes are on these two AD carries. If there's going to be more late game fights, when does the hyper carry come out from Upset? When does Schalke look to say, you know what, we'll actually challenge you in the late game and we will give our AD carry the opportunity to get those outplays and to carry us to a win?
I want to see it in the mid laners as well. So much to talk about, but that's enough from us. For more on Fnatic's win, let's head over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, guys. In terms of what you want to ask for a final, we are in for a good one. 2 games that were incredibly back and forth, but Fnatic comes out on top in this one. And as we look at pick and bans in just a second, to me it really felt like a Fnatic type of game. The type of game where they brawl in the early game, they don't necessarily get too far ahead, even their opponent gets some advantages behind. But in the mid game, when they see their chance, they take over.
And I mean, a lot of it comes down to the pick and ban. We see they adapted and went away from the Assassin and Akali and a more mage type of pick like Cassiopeia. And I think that really showed their approach. They think they can beat this team in the mid-late game, and I think that showed in the game.
And that's what you guys wanted, right? You didn't want them to be lured too much into this late game philosophy that Schalke likes to go with.
Exactly, and I think that the Cassiopeia also helped give them a focal point, a lane they could play around. They, of course, ended up going a lot down into the bottom lane as well, because when you're able to rotate down that Sion, there's just more all-around hard engaged tools for them to work with.
I think Schalke definitely threw them a curveball, though, with the LeBlanc ban and also the Irelia ban. The Cassiopeia pick is not something we see very often into Yasuo. I think this was Caps, what are you comfortable with?
Yeah.
Pick me the Cassiopeia, it's good into the other champs. So I think Schalke still, if both teams were leveled 50-50, I think Schalke had the better draft. But I think Fnatic in those clutch moments, in the team fights, dodging those skill shots, that's where it just came through.
And that is where, if you have Caps on a champion you know so well, you know he is going to perform. Same for Rekkles.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Soaz, because often we talk about Repo, Soaz, who should start. In this game, I think it really showed what Soaz brings to the team. He gave up his top lane, roamed bot lane, and gave advantage to Rekkles. And I think that is really the crucial point in this game, because they played the same matchup. But in game 1, we saw that it was actually Schalke who came out ahead with the Varus and Braum. But because Soaz roams from the top lane with his ulti, he sets up Rekkles to have a successful early game.
Yeah, now it did get initially turned back around on them, but the play was smart because Cho'Gath doesn't have TP, but it's really when Broxah comes around one more time with the rotation from Caps coming in here to really make a play work out that was going pretty poorly at the start.
And it felt like this was one of those moments where you knew if Fnatic didn't get a couple of kills, it could have looked very different, but they made the choice to roam down bottom, and Caps and Rekkles picked up very important kills.
Yeah, because we saw in game 1 that if Upset got a couple of kills, they'll just go ahead and dominate that 2v2, take down an early turret, and that's when Fnatic, I actually are going to be really hard pressed to come back in the game. But since it was Rekkles picking up the kills, they were the first ones to take down the turret. It gave them a lot of the tempo moving into the mid game.
Yeah, here we see on stage, Amazing is now still there. He is choosing to set back stilling. This is actually something we've seen from Rekkles rather in the past. Maybe this is do you see this as a coach? Is this a player who needs some time for himself and just needs to, I don't know, can you explain it to me?
I think it varies from player to player. I personally, I like it more when we're together as a group because I strongly follow the philosophy of pursuing things as a family. But of course, it varies to players. Sometimes you get the mental reset. Sometimes it's good to be for yourself. It just varies from person to person.
Yeah.
And look, Amazing had a ridiculous performance in Game 1. Game 2, it was all right, but it was nowhere near that same level. I think he's trying to take that mental reset to get back on that.
Very well,
Yes, his signature pick also said Sejuani, he felt like a fish out of water.
It was the early game, though, right? Because in Game 1, he really got his team a big advantage. This time around, it wasn't that same level. He played well, but it wasn't the carry performance that bought his team
But
that first.
is that we're looking at, is that why they lost?
I don't think so, but
I
think
okay.
that man does think it's why he lost.
Okay, yeah, okay, that could make sense.
I'm just excited to see what approach the two teams take. I think it's very clear that Schalke is more early mid-game focused with the Varus and in this case the Yasuo, where on the other hand, Fnatic is more scaling with Kaisa and Cassiopeia. Do you match the scaling or do you keep playing to the early game? I think they have played very well in the early game, so I kind of want to see them continue this.
I think it just comes down to, like this game, Schalke was very inactive in the early game because Fnatic didn't have 3 losing lanes. I think as long as Fnatic draft evenly throughout the early game, I think they can end up ahead in the late game team fights.
Well, let's also wrap up this game. We saw Amazing there on stage. He was the guy that died before Fnatic was able to take down Baron. Maybe that's one of the moments that he's replaying in his head. But most of all, this was also Fnatic identifying that this was their moment to go power spikes on the champions that needed it and just going for it.
I think this also shows, sorry Ander, I think this also shows that trundle, like you don't pick Sejuani into trundle because you just melt the tank. And I think with Kaisa and Cassiopeia hitting those tanks, the Cho'Gath, the Sejuani, they just melt like butter.
Indeed. What I also want to point out is that we talked so much about how in Copenhagen it was all Rekkles, when in the split it was a lot of caps. In this game, it was again Rekkles, as you guys said at the beginning of the show. A guy with that pedigree, with that history, with that experience will come through for you when you need it.
And one thing you can look at the damage still is that the Yasuo actually didn't have any impact in the game, honestly. And a lot of it comes down to the pick and ban phase, where there's so much CC and it's so hard to actually have an impact on a champion like Yasuo. We saw it with Akali as well in the team fights because it's just so hard to get in and out because you're just gonna get locked down.
Exactly, it's so hard to play a melee champion against 2 ridiculously strong backliners in Cassiopeia and Kaisa. If you ever commit forward and aren't able to kill them, you just get trained down and can't finish off anything.
Wow, 2 very interesting games. We are now all squared up, 1-1. Tell me, what does Schalke has to do? What are their new keys to victory? We focused a lot on NukeDuck and a lot upset at the beginning of the game, but it seems like getting Amazing on a comfort pick is very important for this team.
Exactly. I think the Skarner was the biggest one. I expect it will continue to be banned away from him.
He will not see Skarner for the rest of the day.
It's over.
It's unfortunate, but I think that comfort for him to be able to make more early game plays is important. The Sejuani was a pick that worked for him a lot during the regular season, but I don't think it's a champion that you can use to really snowball hard early.
And are we sticking with enabling upset wherever we can for Schalke?
For sure, but also we have seen Schalke in the semi-final. They're not bad at playing mid and late game. They can easily take that approach. It just depends how do you actually think you can beat them the most. And I'm looking at a lot on the mid lane because I think that is going to be crucial in the pick and ban. What approach do you take? And I like the fact that the guys here,
they came to him.
The veterans actually on the team talking about like how do we beat this team? And I think for me it's the mid lane, and I don't like the Yasuo with how much the game has just evolved around team fights.
And what we see there, we don't know what they're talking about, but you cannot let that seed of doubt that these are the champions, the reigning champions, Fnatic, that took a game. You cannot let that fester as a coach, Yamato, as a player, when you go into possibly 2 more games and you have the trophy.
I think that the first game was the most important one. Everyone doubted Schalke. I doubted Schalke probably the most. They came in, they took a victory, and I think that's the momentum they can use to take more.
And the biggest thing I take away from this, there's no coach on that stage. Those are 5 players, the camaraderie between these members. They want a win here. They are going to accept nothing less in Madrid. And seeing that on the stage fills me with a lot of confidence for them.
If they win here tonight, they lift the trophy and they go to Worlds, Schalke, but then they have to beat Fnatic. Tonight, heroes will be made. Fnatic and Schalke fight for the EU LCS title and Europe's first seed at Worlds. Game 3 coming up.